Hi, hello Batho Babantle. It's Hope Makola here. You're on my channel, and today I'm doing a collab with Charity, and I'm just going to be asking Charity a few questions. Let's just jump right into it, I guess. I think I also liked a bit of the question you asked, just to say, your time frame in the message. We can just open up with that. How long have you been in the message, and when did you leave the message?
I grew up in the message, and I am 24. I left when I was like
Yeah.
16. So
Wow.
so it's been 8 years since I was out. Well, it was a little complicated when I left. I say that's when I left because that's when I stopped believing in the message, but so basically I grew up in it, stopped
Yeah.
believing when I was 16, was still in
Mm.
my parents' house, so there was a little bit of a mess there. But I've been out, I'd say, for 8
Yeah.
years.
What was one of your earliest childhood memories about being in the message or the cult of William Branham? Dun, dun, dun.
One of my one of my earliest childhood memories, I have an embarrassing one. Something that I
Please,
remember.
we want to.
So, one of my earliest memories was, standing up for prayer. We were singing and things, and I remember, I don't know if you had this experience, but I had these little half slips to go underneath dresses that were too sheer, even like as a
Yep,
young child.
yep.
But of course, like slips aren't really made for young children.
We call it an honoroki,
An
an honorok,
onoroki.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I had this slip. They're not really made for young children. So
Yes.
I would always have like a safety pin that would be like holding it up. And I remember one time during church, I was like, we were singing and stuff, and then we were in prayer, and so I was standing up in prayer, and I just feel it like just slip down, like the like and
Oh,
like the
wow.
safety pin had popped, and it was just down. And I remember feeling so guilty for like opening my eyes during prayer, and I was like looking around and just like holding up my holding up my slip underneath, like trying to maneuver it back up. So yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. I don't know if people saw it, and I think I just blanked out after that. Like that, I don't know if I went to the bathroom to fix it or if mom helped me. I I just remember praying and being like, "Oh no," trying to hold up my slip. So
It must never show. Not even the little bottom part must never show. So I
right,
hear you.
and it's yeah, let alone being around your ankles. So
That's quite a funny one. Thanks for sharing that with us. Okay, did being in a cult also impact on how you view God? Please give an example. Like,
oh,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. So I told people that I fell back onto Christianity. That I told people I was still a Christian, but in my mind, I did not trust God.
Mm,
I did not trust the Bible. I did not
mm,
trust religious people. I felt like I needed to depend on myself, and I didn't actually become what I'd call a regenerate believer, where I was actually believing in God and desiring God
mm,
until 2018, like 4 years ago.
mm,
So, yeah, I'd say it definitely impacted the way
mm,
that I view God,
mm.
because I viewed God as very, very demanding of me. I viewed God as take, 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 and never giving, which is like the opposite of what God is, where He's extending grace to us, showing us who He is, loving us despite of what we do. But that wasn't my experience, and I had a lot of disappointment as well from things that were prophesied in my church that I thought were like God's words that were prophesied would happen, and things that I was praying and I was told. I had a lot of church hurt from just being told if you pray something with enough faith, it will happen. And regardless of what it is, right? Like that idea that you could turn on, you could make God do something by the flick of a switch if you just believed hard enough. And there were things that I had prayed for that hadn't happened. So I was like really bitter towards God because of what I had seen in the message. I kind of wanted to rely more on my own strength because the pattern that I had seen in the message was if you do this, God will give you this. And I wasn't getting those things. So I felt like God had owed me and he didn't give me the things that he owed me.
Oh,
Which is like such a such a twisted idea of who God is and our what our relationship should be like with him. But coming out of the message, I focused really like on the intellectual pieces. I studied like some apologetics to see like that the Bible was trustworthy. I wasn't reading the Bible actively, but I could just see, oh, the Bible is trustworthy. Jesus was a real person who existed. I was
mm,
studying apologetics but I wasn't believing the things with my heart.
okay.
So I would say that at that point, my relationship with God was more like I was holding on to the title of Christianity as like a ticket to heaven. Like
Ooh.
like I'll still believe in God because I don't want to go to hell, but let me just do my life.
Yeah,
That was I was burned by God and by religion, so I was just kind of holding it for like fire insurance basically,
yeah.
and that's it.
Whoa. This is getting a bit heavy, man. Yeah.
It
Okay,
was a dark time of my life. I think that I struggled with mental illness, and at that point, I think I became pretty depressed after leaving the message.
mm,
TBH. While I was in it, like towards the end, I was feeling pretty depressed, and then it just carried on because it's your
mm.
whole worldview just like collapsing. Have a bit of an
Oh,
identity crisis and all that. So it was a lot.
getting to the next question, how did you meet your husband? Was this after you left the cult? Or
I love this question. This was after I left the cult. This was after I was a believer. I
okay.
met him after I was a believer in God, like for real. In 2018, I moved to Austin. I actually had a real relationship with God at that point. I started going to this church in Austin. I met him actually like the first day that I went to the church in Austin. We
Oh,
were we were friends first, and he was voluntold because I was new to the city and I didn't have a car. He was told by um, a friend, like a friend that I had just met, somebody I just met, was like, "You're the closest one to her on the route to Bible study. She doesn't have a car. You drive her to Bible study. You pick her up." Like he was voluntold to take me to Bible study. And so we were friends at the beginning. After a few months, he asked me out.
oh, wow, that's nice. That's nice that you also kind of, I don't know, met in church, hey? In a
Yeah.
you see how God is now falling towards charity again by sending a guy who's a Christian, like, hello, yeah, God does exist. William Branham doesn't, kind of thing. He's not, so that's nice. Um, my thing though is, what did your family who are still in the message think about you being married to a black man or a biracial, or you guys are in a biracial relationship? Because
Great question.
that's a
Great.
big thing in this age.
Yes, it is a no-no in the message. Interracial marriage isn't allowed. I remember one time when I was a kid, the sect that I was in, the pastor was saying something about it's sometimes okay. Like he was covering for like some relatives of his. He was saying it was okay, like it's not ideal, but if they fall in love,
Yeah.
then it's okay, which I just remember as a child being like, I don't understand. Is it okay or is it not okay? Like even as a kid, I was like, how do you fall in love though if you're not like hanging out and pursuing each other? I mean, I guess you can, but we're hardly allowed to like be friends with the opposite sex. So like
Yeah.
anyway, I remember thinking that as a kid. So my family is very large, so there were a lot of mixed views.
Oh, okay.
And some are out of the message and some are still in the message.
Mhm.
And my grandma is one of those people who has been in the message for a while, and my and raised my dad in the message and all that. So I got some heat. I'm not gonna lie. I remember I had recently been dating a guy who was white. It's just like a
Yeah.
couple months, and my family had been saying that, you know, make it, have him visit, you know, and we want to meet him. All these things, and then I stopped dating him, and the reaction I got when I was dating my now husband Watt was very different. And I think I knew it was going to be different because at first I didn't send them any pictures of him. I was just telling them about him. I was telling them about how he loved to study
Yeah.
theology. He was kind of like a theology nerd. Um, he still is a, a theology nerd. And how he met at Bible study and how great a guy he is, all the things that were true, and how he's really funny. And they were very enthusiastic about this guy.
Yeah.
Um, until I started getting a different message when I like had sent a picture in our little family photo share of me and him before a date. I started getting different kinds of statements about him, asking about his job and if he was actually like a professional, because I had said he worked in IT, and um, I started getting comments about his hair and stuff because he had dreads when we first met.
Yeah.
And of course that's another no-no in the message, is like guys
Of
can't have
course.
long hair.
Making all the rules.
Yes, yeah. He's half Jamaican, so like uh dreads are like a thing for
Yeah.
people who are Jamaican. And but yeah, he had dreads at the time. And my I confronted my mother at one point about the way that she was reacting so differently towards this guy, being way more skeptical versus the other guy um,
Mhm.
that I had dated previously, who was white. And I was confronting. I was like, "You have to understand. The only thing that I'm seeing different, the reason you're being so skeptical towards him and not being eager for him to come visit and all that, like you have to understand the only huge difference that I'm seeing that you would see is his race, and
Exactly.
that's pretty
Mm.
racist, y'all." And I'll never forget my mom's vehemently saying that was not the reason. The fact that he's black isn't a problem, but the fact that he has dreads is a
Mhm.
double whammy.
Oh my gosh. A double whammy.
A double whammy. So what's the first thing?
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
She actually said it's a double whammy.
She said
And same, yeah.
she said it was a double whammy. Yeah, so that was kind of like my family gave me a lot of trouble and tried pressuring me um to make him cut his hair and all these things, which I refused to do. One, I liked his dreads when he had them, and two, I wasn't about to start letting my family control me to control my boyfriend.
Your family attend your wedding? If they did, what was it hard or easy to have them around at your wedding? And you know why I'm asking this? In actual fact, I'm also kind of asking for myself in a sense, because my hubby and I, we've done what was a traditional, the lobola side of things, because we have lobola and what have you over here in Africa. So we haven't done our white wedding. And I'm even thinking, by the time we do, I don't really have, like, I want to, explain to me how that whole day panned out and what happened.
Well, we got married in April 2020. So if you do the math there,
Oh,
they weren't there because
yes,
of COVID.
pandemic.
Um,
We were all going through this.
yeah, but it was a very stressful time leading up to it. Particularly because one of the things my dad had told me, and it seemed like an olive branch of sorts, like he was trying to, like, it seemed like he thought he was being very nice to me when he told me how he had explained to my grandmother on his side how our relationship was okay. And it seemed like he was saying that as a goodwill towards me. He was proudly telling me, like he had defended our relationship by telling my grandma that my husband isn't truly black because he's half
Oh,
Jamaican. So really, he's half white. He's half like German ancestry and stuff.
yes.
So since he's half white and half black, who's he supposed to marry?
Oh, wow. You see now, that's what happens. That's what
So
happens with like legalism and doctrine. Now you're going to have to answer all these things, you see.
yeah, so he I think maybe that was their, at least my dad's internal
Process.
justification. Obviously I can't speak for him, but that's what he used for my grandmother to explain our relationship that he told me he had shared with her.
Mm, So at least you had the pandemic to rule that. But you didn't even have, oh yeah, it was a small wedding. Hey, you couldn't even have family at the time, like not even one. No, yeah, it was, okay, the pandemic really worked. You didn't have to
It
go,
saved a lot of awkwardness, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah. So you already answered this, so I'm not going to ask that question. What has been one of the nastiest comments that have been said, like on your YouTube channel from one of the message believers? Like one that right now when we speak really was like, stands out for you. I know that you don't read all of them. I also don't. There's too many and you can't respond to all of them. But what was one that was like, that's why I left? You see, it's things like this.
Yeah, well, I didn't leave because of people being judgmental and all that. But it feels like a confirmation, even though I know I made the right decision to leave. It's like not a question for me when I get those messages that are so hurtful from message believers.
Yeah.
One of the ones that stands out to me, I don't remember the full message, the full comment that is, but at the beginning it started with, "Listen, little girl."
Oh,
Um, and
oh,
that to me just rubbed me the wrong way. Starting that way, so degrading on multiple levels.
yeah,
Um, and of course, it
very.
went into why I was wrong, and I think said something about my appearance and how women shouldn't um, be sharing, like things like that. But I just remember that the beginning part taking me back to my childhood where I was a little girl who was not allowed to ask questions or speak up under the authority of man.
Yeah.
And so being called a little girl just felt like so just so degrading, to start something like that. Um,
And I'm sure it was a man, but I'm not gonna go there. That's gonna be some guy from the message. Um, I also want to at this point say my questions. I think a lot of people have watched both of our channels, and I love how we are quite different in the kind of our approach and our style. So that's why I decided to ask more of the questions from an angle that would be, more suitable on my channel. Remember, we had this discussion.
yeah.
So my more, I don't want to call it lifestyle, but I wanted to show the side of you, like how your life is, because that's another thing, that message believers believe that when we leave, like things really go to the dogs. The one lady told me that I was playing with fire, marrying a worldly guy. Marriage is so tough as it is, and now I'm just playing with the devil daily, obviously insinuating that my husband is the devil. Hello,
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't understand the connection. So I think that's why I wanted us to go more into this line of questioning for you. That said, has anybody said any nasty comments about your husband being black or multiracial, or like has like messaged people on your page or on Instagram, any of your other social media platforms?
I did get a comment on one of my YouTube videos saying that they knew I wasn't a true Christian and saved because if I was, I wouldn't be in an interracial marriage, which is sinful.
Mm, mm, mm. Wow. That is racism. Guys, this is exactly racism. Like, it makes me, yeah. There's no
Yeah.
word.
I when I was in the message, I used to think like, oh no, we're not racist at all. Um, which is just, I'm sure is what they're thinking. Like, no, it's not racism. It's just, don't mix races.
Yeah, exactly. Because he explained that your kids will be hybrid. It's a interbreeding, and it's not genuinely got how? How can you even justify that? And who in their normal minds can even sit under under that explanation and ministry? But hey, that said, we sat for many, many years. Hey. So that's why we're doing such videos, guys. What do you say to people that say Christianity is a cult?
Oh, that's a good question. So I don't always respond to people who say that because I've got a lot of comments on my YouTube channel, and I know that at least one person has made a comment like that. Well, you're in a cult because you're still in Christianity, which is the religion, which is a cult. And it's like, it's not. But I think in order to answer that, you kind of have to know what classifies a cult. Cult
Thing.
is a an extreme religious group that has certain characteristics. For instance, I would say like some religious groups like Judaism um, or Catholicism, I wouldn't call them cults. I would call them false, but I wouldn't call them cults because there are certain characteristics that fall under what it makes a cult versus just something that's false. A lot of psychological things that are involved in a cult that aren't involved in Christianity, that aren't involved in even other religions, isolating people, using fear tactics so they don't leave. You're not allowed to question anything. Your
Yeah.
decisions are made for you. Some of these things like are what makes a cult. Obviously, there's the can't talk. There's the Webster's definition of what makes a cult, but it's very limited. It's very vague and very limited. I think when you look more into like psychology, you can see like tactics that are used in a cult. Cults are like abusive relationships where you can be in a relationship and it's not the right one for you, but it doesn't mean it's abusive. Cults are the abusive relationships, as it were, of religion.
Yeah.
There, there are ones where the person is being emotionally, spiritually, or physically abusive. They're always right. You're always wrong. Um, you're being isolated from your friends and family. Anyone who doesn't agree with them is bad person, etc. These things, that these patterns you'd see in an abusive relationship are very similar to like the patterns you'd see in the social dynamics of a cult.
Yeah. Jeez, yeah. All right, I think we are winding down, everybody. Thanks for answering all those questions. Okay, what is the biggest fear about, what was your biggest fear about leaving the message? I think you kind of highlighted in terms of you were still young, but what was your biggest fear? One that sticks out that you can share with us. Like, I didn't want to leave, or I feared leaving.
I think one of my biggest fears was I just hated that I was wrong. I hated that my whole
Yeah,
future
sure.
that I imagined for myself was crumbling. Like that was very scary for me because I was content with my life in the message, and I pictured a future where I was marrying a pastor's son, and I was probably gonna move to Europe. Like I pictured this future in my head that was really appealing to me, and everything felt so like safe and set. And for me, it was really scary to have all these unknowns, to not
Yeah,
know like what is truth, what is not true, who is God, who am I, what's my relationship with God, if these rules aren't the rules I should follow, what rules are the rules I should follow. It just
yeah,
was so many unknowns. It was really, really overwhelming at first.
yeah. Jeez. Wow, Charity. Thank you so much. Last question while we wrap up. If you could get to ask William Branham one question, what would it be and why? If he could be standing today.
I know exactly what I'd ask him. So I'd be worried that he would lie to me, but
Yeah, there's that.
there's
Yeah.
that. But the question that I would ask is if he genuinely believed the things he was teaching, or if he was purposefully deceiving people. Because from the evidence, I can't tell which it is. Like, was he just a little egotistical, and he kind of like he was narcissistic and just believed the things, and when he lied, it was just him thinking he was doing the right thing for the greater good or something? Like, was he just really delusional,
Yeah.
or was he making a lot of money from tithes and stuff, which we know that he was? Like, was he purposefully deceiving people for financial gain, or for the respect?
I think we both might know what the answer is. But at this point, I'd just like to say thank you so much, Charity. Thank you for answering my questions and joining me on my channel. I will also, guys, link down below Charity's YouTube channel. Please go out and, well, go ahead and check on her channel about the questions she asked me. And yeah, God bless you all. Charity, God bless you. And
Thank
all
you.
the best with you being a mom. I don't know how the sleeping is going there and your arrangements. But is baby Eden? It's Eden, hey?
Yes,
Baby,
it's her name's Eden.
is she in the house? She's so quiet.
She's upstairs,
Oh wow,
and
you look
I'm wearing makeup for the first time in 2 weeks, like since or
so
before
beautiful.
that.
You look so pretty. I love how you do your makeup. I'm
Thank you.
always for the very trying to be as natural and it's got nothing to do with the message, guys, before you all come for us here in the whatever comment boxes. It's just that I do. I think you've got beautiful skin. I've got beautiful skin. I don't think people with beautiful skin should really hide it under so much makeup. But it's not as
I mean, half the time I don't even wear makeup on my YouTube channel, or I just do it lightly, but I really wanted to do it today because I have like you can't tell because makeup, but I had like really dark circles under my eyes from having a newborn. And I was just like slathering concealer.
Okay, so now I know you know more. I'm not going to be so jealous that I didn't have what you're having now. Katie, thank you so much, and God bless you. And yeah,
It was a
thank you for,
pleasure. I'm very happy that we got to do this.
yeah, definitely. All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.